All right, hello and welcome. It is Monday, January 12th, 2026. You are here for how to build AI native skills for your career in 2026. My name is Albert. I am the founder of Albert's List. We're a job search, side hustle, and AI education company helping you become the most resilient professional possible. With me today are Sean and Soham, who are great ex consulting firm professionals who have also become very well versed in the world of AI. And if you know one thing or two about AI, it has become very important in all of our career skills over the last couple of years as it has emerged into the market. And so today we're going to talk about how you can become AI native and make AI a crucial and critical part of your skill set. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Sean and Soham. Before that, I'm going to also tell you that this presentation is being recorded. We will follow up. And if you have any questions, please use the webinar and Q&A function. All right, Sean and Soham, over to you.
Thanks, Albert. I will just share my screen. Please let me know if it's visible. Yeah, we're in 2026 and we still have to keep asking that question. So, are we good, Albert?
I can see your screen. Yep.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Albert, and good evening, everyone. And to those as I saw in Auckland and Brisbane and Sydney, good morning, where it is indeed the Jan 13th. So, welcome to Building an AI Native Career in 2026. And I'm sure probably many of you thought, well, what does AI native even mean? Why are we here? Well, what we're going to focus on is really in the world of AI that we see, and aside from all the noise or within it, etc., how can you actually create leverage? How can you move quickly? How can you be the most relevant person in everything you engage in, right? So we're also going to do a live exercise. So as Albert says, grab a piece of paper. So somewhere along the way here, we're going to do an exercise and we're going to show you an actual product demo, more along the lines of how we used AI to build it, the problems it solves, etc. Right? So this is not a product marketing push. It's not a sale, nothing. That's just a tech demo to kind of showcase a couple of things. We've got, I think Albert said 60 people in growing fast. So thank you for being here with us today. And we definitely value your time. You should very much value your time. And so it's important to understand why exactly we're here, right? And as we said, what's AI native? Well, I think everyone's seen now that, as we say, build is cheap, and that includes content creation. Note, I am not saying high quality build or content creation or anything of that sort, but it is a fact indeed that build, content creation in general has become cheaper. So in the sense that AI is now flattening creation costs and people pump out whether it's content on LinkedIn, whether it's code, and we're not just talking of the vibe types, but other even code that makes its way to production and is of good quality. So that collapses the barrier to entry, right? So given that, given the fact that, there's now more emphasis on what are the judgment calls you make, where do you use AI and not, how do you use it, what's your access to distribute things, be it content, be it product, be it your services, that takes a front seat, right? Um, I want to say it never took a back seat, but if anything, it matters more than ever when the playing field is a little easier for, in fact, everyone. And that includes particularly small teams, right? For those who come thinking, is AI going to take my job? Should I worry about it? Oh my God, I used to do assessments at a consulting firm. Oh, I used to do trade studies and for across 5 or 6 different companies for my clients. I used to write code. I still do, etc. What do I do now? No, small teams, particularly, whether it's a small team by itself, whether you work alone as a solopreneur, whether you work in a small company or startup, whether you're a small group in a large enterprise, you've definitely gained leverage. And we'll talk about how to actually use that agency to make an impact, right? And get what you want and what matters to you. So that's a little bit about why we're here and why it really matters. In terms of very, very quick intros, and I would like to thank Albert for the brief one, but I'd like to talk about us for just 10 seconds, right? So my name is Sean Molchanani. I'm normally based in Washington, D.C., and I do love to travel the world, hence this points. But aside from travels and other hobbies, I've worked in, cloud, cybersecurity, and now AI for almost 2 decades. I would say 2 decades this year. And during that course, done everything from found and launch tiny startups, the kind that need one and two people, but do yield the nice 80% margins, all the way to leading teams of 900, or as I was corrected the other day by a former boss, saying 1100. So, and engaged in a lot of these cloud, cybersecurity, and other transformations, totaling well over 1 billion. So, whether it's build small, build fast, fail fast, keep moving, growing, or build a behemoth or ride it, kind of been quite privileged to see a little bit of all sides and do my part. With me, I've got Soham, who is definitely one of the developer savants and a wonderful colleague of mine. So, Soham, you want to say a little bit in a few seconds?
Sure, thanks for the intro. And I won't take much time rather explaining about myself. So, myself, I have actually been an avid open source contributor prior to getting into the professional world. And as an ex-consultant from one of the big four firms, I have seen how big companies have been working and how they have also leveraged AI and learned and moved forward with shipping four products in within a year by leveraging AI and automating stuff. So that's all about me, and you'll learn more throughout the entire course. So yeah.
Thanks, Soham. And we've talked a little bit about why we're here and also why what a little bit about us. Now, it'll be great to know a little bit about you, right? And so we have a very quick poll, right, just to get a feel for how you're using AI today. And I think it's a Zoom poll. Albert should have it up right now. It is an anonymous one, and don't be scared. Just tell us where you really are, or you think you are, and we'll give it a minute. Like, look forward to calibrating thereafter.
It's most of the folks telling us it's for daily productivity.
Let me know
Tends
what
to
you.
be the most popular one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So right now we have
Yeah, I can't.
productivity at 49%, experiment occasionally at 33%, and then the rest is 10% of integrated workflows, 8% aren't sure where to start, and 2% are building AI products.
Okay.
So 80% of this crowd is using it for productivity or experimentation. Let me know if you
Awesome.
can end the poll.
Mhm. So we got okay. That's great, and we have a healthy amount of response so far, I think, or are we waiting on a few more?
I just went ahead and ended the poll here.
Got it. Got
So
it.
it's
Okay.
80-20 here. Literal 80-20 rule.
Yeah, I'll tell the audience I'm not sure I could have predict to that, but I would have expected more of an even keel. However, it is awesome to know that everyone's kind of been engaging. Everyone's actually using it in their daily lives, and some are even building with it. So that's wonderful. That helps us better calibrate the rest of the session. And we'll talk about a few more things than we normally would have. So that's great. Now, in terms of um, getting started, right? The first takeaway we'd like folks to have really is that don't treat AI as this giant amorphous thing. For us to actually truly leverage it, for us to be relevant, let's crystallize it into its current form and, you know, in some sense, eras. And so as it evolves, when we focus about careers, when we think about ourselves, we have to focus on us evolving and keeping pace or keeping slightly ahead of that era as well, right? You move too fast, it's hard to get distribution, it's hard to be relevant. People say, come back later, we're not ready for you. You move too slow, you get left behind. So how do you track? And through effectively at least our case of having aside from consulting, I'll say that having built four products or seven products really in the last 14 years, four of those in the last year, so you can see how the speed changes. What we've done is really categorize how we've seen these different eras. The one of light automation, the one of, largely using machine learning libraries to build products, the one where, large enterprises had the access, um, certain developers had access, but as far as all of us goes, that whole point about daily productivity didn't really exist. And I think then came, I want to say GPT-3 onwards. Some in the audience here might say, well, we used GPT-2 and we used other things. Great. Uh, but the amount of research and go-to-market acceleration that happened purely in with obviously the rise of LLMs has been remarkable, right? And that's led to faster thinking, faster decision making. Whether you're trying to answer what is the best um I would say tax optimization strategy and let's say retirement accounts this year, if you're a solopreneur about, have a solo 401k or a SEP IRA, and help you find the differences between each, make it simple, right? Make it something you can understand, even if you're not a tax pro or an accountant or you've never done this, all the way to answering questions about somebody else's code, to figuring out how to play an instrument or something like that, which is more a hobby. But it's made a real difference, and we'll talk about some of this later. Um, we've seen the third era, and the timeline between these three is very short. I would say, talk about late mid 2022 until now. It's barely 3 years, and we've moved what feels like three eras. We've seen, the rise of, I would say, AI native products. For everyone here, you've used products, be it enterprise products, SaaS, consumer products. Most of those are AI infused, but it also led to the development of many AI native products, right? You're seeing startups come up at a faster pace. You've seen products come up at a faster pace. You've seen people building anything they feel like. Um, I mean, there was somebody who, one of the kids in university that just decided, I'm going to have a hardware device that just does real-time language translation, that get funding and just go, go, go. But now we're truly in the age of agentic workflows. And I want to say that no matter where you've been, um, it might have been a Thanksgiving dinner last year. It might be a day at the office. It might be a casual conversation. It might be a billboard or an advertisement board that you're looking at while on a metro or subway, etc. to work. It's hard to have not heard the word agentic somewhere or the other. So We're truly in the era of systems operating in machine speed. We're in an era where, everybody is racing to build it. I think everybody here is very familiar with how much money is being spent in hiring select professionals to just boost this for certain companies. So we'll talk about this, but this is really where you want to focus. And when I say this is where you want to focus, it's perfectly fine if you're not someone who's building products, who's building agents, who's tweaking them, etc. You don't have to be that. You can be product marketing, you can be HR, you can be a builder, you can be an operator, you can be a tax pro and an accountant, like we talked about. We'll talk about how it applies and what your part is to that. When we do talk about, different eras, the one thing I do want to share, and this is important, is that, models are evolving faster than some of the assumptions that we hear or sometimes we hold. Um, there are many times people have said, well, AI generates code, but that's all slop. Oh, AI generated poetry or whatever, the works of Shakespeare in a different style, so on and so forth. But that's all entertainment. It'll never really be real. So it codes slop. It can't do things. It can't do math. It can't. I mean, it started with it can't do math. It then started with I'm bored of telling it to write jokes for me, and it doesn't do anything productive. Then came the big it can't code right, and then it'll keep going. But aside from all those it can't do things, I think it's conquered most of them, right? It can't do math. Well, it wasn't meant to, but it can call tools that can do the best math on earth. Um, it used to code slop, and now you have the creator of Linux, Linus Torvalds, who says, "Hey, I've released tools, libraries, and tools that are completely created with AI." He happened to use anti-gravity by Google, but which is a secondary point. But in the first 10 days of 2026, we've already had that. So we've had the tools, we've had the models kind of evolve quite a bit to the point where if you're not using them, please do. And please do use them more because they will get better faster than you can object. The beautiful thing with the crowd we have today is you are using it. So the question is how much more can you use it and how can you use it? We've talked about this right now in terms of um, what's probably the most important is spending some time with yourself and saying, what have I always wanted to do that I haven't done before? And and also what's something I do on a daily basis that needs introspection. We're all busy people. But it really looks at like how can you do something with AI that you haven't done before? I know Albert, as an example, does a lot of events, right? You've probably attended some of his other events. Um, Albert's constantly creating events, hosting them, listing them, promoting them. It takes a lot of work. And I'm not him, but even I know in terms of all the work that is involved and the steps that are there. And so when he's thinking about, as an example, oh, I'm gonna use N8N or another orchestrator to automate these aspects of what I've been doing over the last 1, 2, 3, 6 months. Um, he's definitely trying to amplify his scale even further and reduce his time. So, um, it's it's not something that was possible really 3 years ago, or quite frankly in 2011 or 12 when he started with Albert's List and more. But it is now. So I know as just using him as an example. So, and the point is, I think this is really another point that I wanted to make is, you know, as you're doing things, whether you're using or consuming AI for your benefit, whether you're building something, The goal is to outlast models. Um, I may say something controversial now, which is, you know, just an example of this was people who very quickly said, this model cannot do something. I need to fine tune it. Or I heard fine tuning is all the rage. I need to fine tune, fine tune, fine tune. I need to build something custom. They either said that or they thought that, and therefore they did not do because, oh, then fine tuning is expensive. I don't have the time, so on and so forth. Well, okay. But then what you do is you design for adaptability, right? You don't anchor to today. The models did evolve. They did, again, back to point one. They did have everything in due course faster than people thought. You don't need to fine tune everything. In fact, you almost never do, right? 99%, I think, of all the use cases that everyone's got in this room don't need fine tuning. Yes, I made that stat up, but I'm happy to go through that list if people want to share use cases, either another at any given time, a small group session, etc. You don't need to fine tune. You don't need other things that they're just barriers that will hold you back. Just use it, build it, and the most important thing, focus on getting adoption. We mentioned a lot of meta points. I've spoken a lot about these in terms of things. A lot of the audience here is probably wondering, Sean, when are you going to talk about Opus 4.5? When are you going to talk about why it's better than GPT 5.2 or a certain version of 5.2, Pro, etc., etc.? I will tell you that the rest of this talk doesn't necessarily get into that. We're always happy to have a session that specifically focuses on which model is best for what at any given time. So we're going to talk and we're going to keep talking about how to use it, where to use it, across marketing, across product development and research and more as we go along. But I'll just tell you, like, don't expect the topic today to be all about why Opus 4.5 is a rage, because that gets obsolete fast, right? And what you're taking away here, hopefully, is more of a system, is more of a way of thinking, is more insight. So that's it. Now, we've talked about, the aspect of empowerment, the aspect of, living the right era. And the time is right. The time is right now. The time has never been more right. But it's only right for you if you actually move fast. And that's very, very, very important, right? Moving fast. So when we talk about moving fast, well, about what? You may say, what does that even mean? So here's some practical numbers that we've not only seen, but we've engaged in across very, very different types of tasks that we undertake, or initiatives that we undertake or engage in, right? I want to share as an example. There's just some of this, like, very, very quickly. Uh, Soam and I built one of our products that we sell as part of our company Red Hold. It's called Cloud Twin. It helps. You can go to cloudtwin.ai and see what it's about. It's effectively in the cloud backup and restoration space and overall resilience, even migration spaces. What's more important is really the takeaway, right, for you, which is, when we were thinking about what is Cloud Twin, what should it be, who the question comes up is, who are your competitors? And then when you have to put together a lot of content about what's the one thing you do that nobody else does, why does it matter, and more, that that is very this about uh who else is doing what are we doing that others aren't? Why does it really matter? Who are our direct competitors? Who are our indirect competitors? I can tell you that in the past, to look at and survey 11 to 12 companies would have taken probably, 3 to 4 weeks of someone's time, even of my time. And I'm not afraid to say that, or like somebody like, no, 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 we can do it in 3 days. No, trust me, if you have to read and absorb heavy literature, you have to find it, and it's not easy to find. You find the heavy, dense info for a number of direct and indirect competitors, in this case, about Rubrik and Cohesity and Veeam and others. I know everybody may not be familiar with those names. That's okay. It can be just imagine you're building something, think of all the competitors to it, or you wherever you work, whatever you're engaged in, think of all the competitors. Not very easy to go and figure out how many, pull all their information, summarize it, etc. And yet we were able to do that, within hours. Realistically speaking, took about 7, 8 maybe. It was that many hours spread across 2 days, but it would have taken forever, yet it took so little. And now, aside from obviously publishing on our own site, improving our SEO, improving effectively our AI engine optimization, or AEO, which is I think all the rage now, we're able to better answer with more conviction, what exactly stands out about us, what is different than our competitors, who they even are, who's direct, who's indirect. It's helping us win more deals, right? And that's very important as we go through the sales process. The reason I point out this example is to really prove a point where I mean many times talk about software dev and code, and you may hear those examples. But here's an example of, actually engaging in market research of, should I build something or should I even do something? As well as, why should I do something and why am I better than everybody else at one thing? I can't be better than everyone in everything, but what is the one thing that I am absolutely invincible or unbeatable at, and hopefully unconquerable at? So, and to show you that there's focus on marketing, on research, on competitive analysis, etc. And I've done this in the past at, many firms I worked in, trade studies, competitive analysis at, whether it's Lockheed, whether it's Accenture, whether it's Capgemini, whether it's others that I worked at. It used to take time. I mean, it used to take teams, and one had reusable content and things, but it's easy now, and that's what empowers you. That said, um, just one more example before we move on. But Soham, you've been heavy in the trenches with, product building and engineering, but do you have kind of a story to share about, how it's helped you in terms of tech roadmaps, research, or straight up coding, other engineering, and more? So,
Of course, of course. I mean, one of the most complex things that we developers face is that picking the right tool or the right tech stack for a certain feature. And it's nearly impossible for one person to know and get hold of every tech stack that is available or every tool that is available on the market, because there are thousands, and these thousands have their very specific use cases. So if we just jot down the very specifics of the user requirements or the client requirements, and then generate heavy documentation and get a proper uh, list of hard-coded requirements that needs to be there and what's prioritized, we can just leverage AI to get to know what's the best tool to use for a certain feature. And you might not be familiar with it, you might have never used that, but there you have it. You can even leverage AI to learn about it and then implement. And if we make the right decisions, this entire timeline of getting the tool right to implementation will be faster than the conventional using what has been there in the knowledge base. and then getting the results. It's still faster. So that's the amount of speed difference or generational gap of development speed that has been noticed by us. I mean, we just achieved these numbers by following those practices, and it's even getting faster and better every day. So, yeah, that's all about
So
the
someone,
speed.
I'll challenge you to be more specific with the group, right? Just so because I'm sure they're like, but how do you do it? So I think, do you want to spend a minute talking about, look, you've built four products in the last year, but roughly what's the scale of those? What are we talking about in terms of average features per product, lines of code? How recently how long did it take for your most recent product versus, the first of the four? Um, how fast do you churn out small or large features? Um, you know, tell them some of this so that they know what it really means.
So I'll take the example of our latest product, that is Cloud Discovery, which contains around 400,000 lines of code, and it has generally 12 plus core features in it. And that's the scale of it. But it only took us 2 months or even less than 2 months to get it production ready and get it deployed on client's end. And today, clients are using it, they're using to find issues in their cloud environment. It not only supports one but three CSPs. And yeah, there you have it. But how do I do it? I mean, what's the magic trick? It's all about making the right decisions, correct documentation, proper planning, and then leveraging AI to implement the plan. So it's all of the small right decisions that lead us to a product like this in this duration of time. So that's it.
Thanks, Home. I think for our audience, we will tell you that Cloud Discovery also has about 65 agents live in production. So, which is not a joke, right? People say, how do you get one? How do you get two to production? It actually has 65. But that's just a teaser right now. We'll actually tell you more about that later in terms of what it takes, what it took, learnings, and more. So, when we talk about speed, right? Um, it's very, very important. I mean, I just can't understate it. But speed, as we've talked about, where, how, and how does it really matter? The first thing is you use almost everyone here says they use it for daily productivity, research, and more. The goal is to keep learning, right? I think once you truly internalize, um, not only that I don't know everything, but the real fact to internalize is the people who succeed aren't the people who know the most in the room. That's very important. It's the ones that can figure out how to know anything at a given time. And you don't need to know something forever. You need to know something when you actually need to use it. So the beautiful thing is if you're using it right, the right prompting techniques and more, you are learning very, very rapidly. I had to teach myself, I've built about 150 cloud foundations or environments for the Fortune 500. So you can say one third of the large of companies is cloud estates. But still, there was something very, very nuanced I had to teach myself a couple of days ago. And there's no better thing than effectively asking the hard questions to one or more LLMs to make them effectively even compete with each other in terms of, but this one said this and this one said this, so how, and to ask them questions that sometimes you're like, is it a stupid question to ask a human? That's the other beautiful thing, right? You can learn. You can also help to decide and make informed calls quickly. um I'll also give you another example. I'm not too shy to admit any of these, right? I had to make a call recently about partnering with someone for product sales. And when it comes to, some of the demands, or demands are a strong word, but some of the terms they asked for, needed to understand very, very quickly what are the implications and figure out, okay, is it worth engaging or is it not? And it's not about let's engage because they've asked for a 10, 20, 50% commission. It's about are we engaging because we're seeing the right kind of behaviors based on everything they're saying, and how they're putting across, how they're reacting, right? I'm not here to tell you to trust models or AI blindly. I'm not saying to use it as a therapist. Absolutely not. You could, there are apps out there. I am saying use it as that co-companion to tell you about some things that may be blind spots to you. And sometimes, I'll tell you, it's helped in cases of where you feel like, no, but I know them. They mean well. They do things. It helps be very unbiased as well. Some of you may turn around and say, well, things like GPT have a problem about always agreeing with you. No, you can have custom instructions. You can tell it to be very ruthless, right? That's typically what we do. That's how we get the most value out of them, as far as I'm concerned. We have those custom instructions when we use GPT, when we use Claude, when we use others, and I say be crisp, be ruthless, be absolutely precise, concise, and not at all verbose, and find reasons to disagree with us in terms of what we're seeing. That actually helps us a lot. We've talked about delivering tangible outcomes, but ship, right? And when we say ship, if you're building a product, ship it. If you owe your manager, you're in a large company, you owe your manager that trade study deck, get it done, ship it, and then get the feedback and learn. Um, have people's feedback in there as well. Just iterate. So that's that. And all of a sudden, keeping on going here. We've talked a lot about how to use it, what to do it, where, but what's very important is not using it blindly. And everyone here may say, well, Sean, you've amped us so much if we weren't already, or if we weren't already doing it. What do you mean but by don't use it everywhere? Um, I think in an era where there's AI content everywhere, be it on LinkedIn, be it elsewhere. Hey, guys, be it this deck, not the messaging, but I did use it to create the deck. Okay, and I'll be honest, but trust is scarce, right? You've been putting yourself out there this whole time, whether it's building up your profile on LinkedIn, or whether it is shipping a SaaS product, or whether it's producing the best legal analysis, whether it's being a really good content marketer, so on and so forth. But use things blindly, use things without guardrails. Um, you will just lose trust with what matters the most, or I should say, who matters the most, right? Your customers, your clients, those that depend on you, even people in your personal life that counted on you for good advice and you just threw something that a model told you. So where do you use it, right? We talk about, you know, we want to talk about what these things are good for. Um, One of the things I really want to talk about here is when it comes to AI first, what does it really do and what's it good for? And tie this back to earlier points. I think everyone here, in terms of daily use, you've asked GPT, you've asked Claude, you've asked others, you've asked for summaries, you've asked for explanations and teaching, you've definitely asked for generating emails or even maybe even legal drafts and more. I actually had to review and edit a piece of someone's power of attorney recently. Yes, interesting topic, and I know not gonna go in that direction, but you've you've done all of these. I think what's very important when we talked about agentic earlier and demystifying some of that is agents will just do one or more of these things, right? So when you think about building an app or automating a workflow, which is something your team does or you do, pieces of work your team does, you do, etc. you can just string a lot of these together and they become very powerful. But what needs to happen in that process is you need to ask yourself, is this worth building? Is this worth automating? Is this actually solving a real problem? You can get help even on that answer about, is this solving a problem? But you have to ultimately answer that. Um, is the output expected to be deterministic? Do people want the same result all the time? Not a good idea to just give them AI output in that case, or agentic or not. Um, what are some sensitive decisions? What are bells you can't unring effectively, right? And thinking through those. That's important. And ultimately it's your accountability. We're still not in an age, legally or otherwise, where you can just blame it all on the AI, right? If it fails, it's still us. But because it's us, that's also why we matter. It's why we matter in a job. It's why we matter as a solopreneur. It's why we matter in a startup. It's why we matter overall. So I would say use it really to accelerate the way you execute, but make sure you're not letting it effectively guide you and tell you something and follow it blindly. So this is also what we did in terms of every product, right? We and I'll just say we had an inkling about what to build. We then basically did a lot of market study that helped. That helped with a lot of pattern detection, etc. But ultimately, the strategy of what to build, most importantly, what to defer, because you can't build everything at once. You got to pick your battles carefully in terms of customers you want to have versus not, features you want to have versus not. That's very important. So, and it's not all about product building, right? I've talked about a lot of alluded to that quite a bit in terms of workflows, products, and more. But I know many of you, particularly within Albert's list, are focused on, growing your career, making some strategic shifts, or looking for, a new job or a gig. So it can be that tactical, or it can be something much bigger. In terms of how you can actually use AI to help you, um, there's aspects about interview prep. This is particularly, I think, this is very helpful when you start asking it questions, like really hard questions. And I don't mean asking it hard questions for it to trip up. Asking it the questions about what you want would ask somebody that you feel foolish or shy or silly, or asking it about you once you've interacted with it enough. I'm sure many of you have asked GPT, have asked Claude, like, and they have memory, right? Is tell me what I should be asking you that I'm not. Or once you fed in, if you've got projects within one or more of your LLM applications, you've asked it, okay, what are some considerations that I'm not asking for? So things like that. Um, there's the aspect about, of course, now if you are effectively hiring and more, you're looking at some of these requirements. Or if you're applying, you can't apply everywhere. You need to figure out how you're actually doing this. So in terms of some of these, um, I just want to pause. Soham, you've interviewed in the past, and interesting enough, you've interviewed with me too. So what, like, how did you prepare for the interview, and did you use AI? Did you not? And how have you used it as it relates to like your career, be it in consulting, be it in a startup and beyond?
Of course. So what I do is I just create projects with proper context of the problem that I'm trying to solve with it. For example, if I'm preparing for my interview for a lot of companies, let's say a lot of companies that are on my radar and I have their job postings. I create a complete context. I feed in all the data. I feed in data about myself, my resume, my past achievements, academics, and everything. So it knows who am I and how I reached at this point of time. And then I just start asking questions about what, I mean, we need to critique ourselves. So I just critique myself like, what's the point where I'm lacking? What's the point that's making me not the option to be chosen? Or how I'm not the chosen one if someone looks for only one opening? So you get to know more about yourself, your weak points, your strong points, and that's how you can brush up. And even before a particular interview, you can ask for a mock interview over the AI platform that you're using. It will ask you questions, it will challenge you, and you can get a better understanding of what to expect in a certain interview. And funny enough, I even tried that before your interview, and 30% of the questions were in common, and it helped me a lot. And look where we are right now as partners. So that's the entire journey.
Thanks, Home. Yeah, I know. I'll just say, folks, I mean, we're hiring right now, and it's interesting because we use it to we actually end up generating a lot of the questions that we ask, right? We don't blindly just ask them because that's it, but we do effectively end up interviewing everybody a little differently. I mean, to the same rigor, to the same standard, but the questions we ask vary wildly because we're actually evaluating people on what they've done or the claims they make rather than some cookie cutter one size fits all set of questions. So that's a little bit about there. Career prioritization, just on the aspect of AI first versus human first, etc. I'll just tell you that I don't think it's worthwhile asking it about I've worked in startups for the last 30 years and now I want to go to enterprise, or I've worked in enterprise for the last 30 years and now I want to go build a startup. By all means ask it and whatever, but that's obviously a decision that you'll always make as a human. And I think nobody will probably ever beat your gut aside from all the data points you have, right? You can have all the data that says make the jump at some point, that includes like humans, like your family, and those that matter to you, telling you what to do or advocating what to do, and sometimes being more passionate about it than you are in the moment. But things don't replace your gut. So there are things that are worth it, and there are things that are not. Um, we are running low on time, but we'll do the exercise and we'll give it, 2 minutes. It's a good break as well, and I think you've heard enough so far. So what we want to do in terms of creating what we call your AI native advantage map, right, is first, please screenshot this slide. So we hope you're joining us in the exercise. Uh, don't worry about any stage fright. This is just for you to do at your desk, in your bed, wherever you are. Um, and just screenshot the slide. And then when it comes to that, you have to build a map, right? So what you want to do is problems that you deeply understand. So what do you know better than most? Um, some people know how to play a musical instrument better than everybody else. Some people know a lot about taxes, way more than they probably should. I don't know. Maybe they're obsessed with it. Maybe that's me. Some people know about code. Some people know about, I think, Albert, what do you know about maps from the 1930s or something like that? So it could be anything, but I think for our audience here, problems that you deeply understand. I'm being facetious when I talk about a couple of those examples, but problems you deeply understand. Things that you do a lot on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, all the chores and more. And and then what of those must stay human? Um, this should be as small as possible. in and just jot those down. So again, the goal is to figure out the problems and then to characterize them based on where they fall. And you want to look at where you have high leverage and high automatability. That is effectively the goal, is to find out what you can actually turn into, be it a side hustle or a product that's your own venture, or with one other person, and kind of build something that you're deeply passionate about, or just reduce your workload every week and spend more things on the time you love. So we'll give it, you know, a minute, 2 minutes, quickly for y'all to do that. Thanks. Okay, only because we're really short on time. We're going to ask that we keep moving, but I'll say that hopefully you've screenshot that slide, you built it. What I will ask is that you know, what you should see now is 2 to 3 directions or where you have something, a unique advantage. It's it's very, I would say, easy, but also human. It's just human to think, no, 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 there's nothing special about that. So if you do want some feedback, if you want just the screenshot you took, if you want a clean PDF of that for some reason, or if you want to share what you came up with, especially if you're like, well, how do I actually act upon this? Or how do I commercialize this? Or how do I make this successful for myself? Feel free to, you know, just DM me on LinkedIn, or just email, and happy to provide that feedback. You know, it can be today, it can be 3 weeks from now. No worries. Hopefully sooner, right? Right. Don't just let it sit. If it's something that you think adds value, it's a little exercise can go a long way. So, I think we're coming up to one of our last things, which is, you know, or 4 or 5, which is, so far in the age of era, we started with this in terms of why it matters. And the reality is, you know, build has become much cheaper. Uh, but what's really important is distribution and feedback. Again, whether that's you promoting content on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and trying to get the reactions you need, or whether that's building a product and saying, nobody's using it. Okay, but yes, the more people that build, the more flooded the market is. The more we're attuned to tune out, you know, or discard what people are saying, because we're just sick of being sold to. So, how do you actually stand out? And the fact is, you need to figure that out. It's that's very important. So we've talked about, you know, building at a high level. If you want to build with AI, by the way, there's a lot we can offer in terms of other sessions, courses, etc. But it's important in terms of getting that distribution and more, that you do use AI across the business, be it again, automation of workflows, be it research, be it automation of workflows, be it the as an example, um, agentic AI and more. So when it comes to different activities, we've actually engaged in a lot of this, and it turns out to be really, really helpful. So, for example, for go-to-market, whether it's lead generation, whether engineering that you heard about, whether it's, you know, market analysis, competitive intelligence, things that you heard about earlier as well. You've heard about a little bit about these two. but you can and should also use it for practically everything. Think about everything you do, everything you need done for you if you engage other people. And how much of it can you actually automate, or how much of it can you make sure that the people you're getting things from use AI because they pass on those efficiencies to you. There's fewer um, missed deadlines, it's a lower cost, and beyond. So it's a much larger set, and I would encourage you to think across everything, right? Research, development, marketing, sales, operations, finance, and far beyond. But again, we actually have a pretty extensive list with about 40 odd use cases. So if you DM us, we'll share you. It would be very, very draining to go through all of that. But we do have that entire list in just a couple of slides. That'll help. With that said, we are at time, but we'll try to take a minute and just show you the demo we promised. Internally we've built this is a commercially available product. It's SaaS. And the problem we set to tackle was that, from coming from our background, talk about our strengths, our advantages. We had, we used to engage in cloud assessments, or discoveries, evaluations, you name it, diagnostics. There's no shortage of names in the consulting industry for this. And they used to take 12 to 16 weeks. And clients would pay about 150,000 plus per engagement. It was manual, it's inconsistent, it's slow. Somebody has, let's just say, an AWS environment with 300 accounts. You put together two or three humans, given all of the tasks around finding things, reporting, meetings, and more. They were, you were at best, let's just say, sampling five, six, or 10 accounts, which didn't was theater, right? It's feel good. It doesn't solve anything. But what really matters is that we decided we're going to actually um, effectively automate all of this. And in this case, what really matters, I'll pause and I'll go here. So here's an example of the dashboard, right? Um, this is less about giving you a product tour and more about talking through it. But what matters over here in building this product, all the way from why we built the product and refined our problem statement and what we're solving for, to who identifying who our competitors are and aren't, to figuring out our tech stack, to figuring out, the different personas who use this, as an example, who use the app, and what they're getting from it, like a platform engineer versus an executive, to effectively figuring out to building a number of different things which integrates with, the big three clouds, like someone talked about earlier, or figuring out, I would say, assessing people's environments for a number of different areas, which is 17, I believe, at this point. As you can see, all the way from supply chain of software and its security, to folks' architecture and more. I can tell you that all of this was built agentically, and the answer for, of course, it was engineered heavily using AI and more. But what's important is, why did we even pick agents? Why did we make that design choice? And the answer is because that allows us to be extensible. We started with three or four of these domains, as we call them, or focus areas, and one cloud. We quickly expanded, growing to about 17 domains on one cloud, 17 on three, and adding the ability to look at compliance reports or detailed architecture reports and evaluations on demand. And this is something that, you have to pay hundreds of thousands for otherwise. And now you don't. So that's very, 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 very important. So that's something that is, I would say, a lightning fast demo, right? And always happy to talk more about it, but I think I've covered very, very quickly some of the design choices, or at least where we've done it. And we were able to ship a product like straight up that's used by customers within about 35 days. I don't want to be unrealistic and tell you one weekend. It is an enterprise product, but 35 days all in. And that included multiple, like a couple of pilots, feedback, everything. So that's what takes time, not more than just engineering. And what we're able to truly get with it is reduce people's time down to 15 minutes, make it very, very cost effective for them, for us, have a very high accuracy rate, despite the fact that yes, it's agents, they're not deterministic, etc., but very comprehensive. Because we don't just have agents, we have agents that check agents. We have things that judge the outcome and improve it and enhance it, multiple levels. And we're able to scale very, very quickly. So if you happen to manage or have any cloud presence in AWS, Azure, or GCP, whether it's your startup, whether it's your hobby project, whether it's your company. If you'd like to know more, always you can just DM me Cloud, and we'll give you a complimentary assessment for everyone who's spent the time today. So that's that. And I'll wrap up by saying we're 5 minutes over. So I'll wrap up by saying, um, don't chase models when we talk about all things AI and more. It's not about fanaticizing over how good a model is or how bad. I mean, as much as, Opus 4.5 is shaking up the coding world, or people were not happy with GPT-5 when it released initially and, had the auto router and things like that. It's more important that you understand why you're doing something, and the fact that parts of it can almost always likely be automated, um, that workflows will need to be hybrid, and that what you need to do is something that's fast. In the event you're building a workflow or product, look at unit economics and only scale what works, right? I mean, I think feedback is very, very, very important. Um, if it's something that was built to help you, your own feedback, is it really saving you time? Or are you spending more time building AI to solve a problem than you do manually? Like exponentially more time. Then don't do it. So that's that's very important. Um, Albert, I think if you're still with us and if people are still with us, I think that wraps up. I know we have kind of a rushed ending, but happy to take on questions at this time if people want to stay back for a few. And yeah, if you've not dropped them in the chat already, please do. We'll try to answer a couple, even though we're quite over. And happy to get back to everyone as well. If you DM on LinkedIn or email. So we'll make an attempt to get everybody a response, no matter what the question. So that's that.
All right, any questions? One of the links that we just shared at the end here was if you're looking to vibe code, or not vibe code, but build real leverage in the AI era with your background and your expertise, Sean and Soham are taking on a limited time cohort of individuals and professionals who are willing to work with them. And we have a special early bird discount of $497 for 6 weeks. So check that link out here in the webinar chat, but also connect with Sean and Soham too and ask them any questions that you may have. But in the meantime, yeah, let's take some questions. Any questions from the audience here?
Yeah, I'm looking. No questions?
Let's see. Okay. All right. People just chatting with each other. Are there any inclusion of designers in the build out processes for layout or usability concerns?
That's a great question. The use of designers. So I will say that as it relates to the products that, the two products that we have right now and the others that we built. Look, in the past, we built products. We've engaged designers very, very extensively. I think one of the things we've done is learn from them, and I would say one of my side responsibilities is design. I am not a professional by any means, but we do end up understanding patterns, and now we actually leverage AI to make sure that we make things that are, I would say, responsive, that are accessible, that appeal to audiences in terms of color scheme. Nothing's perfect. You could tell me that the app you saw in a few minutes is absolutely crap. And my first question to you is, how can we make it better? Not, oh, it's not a statement, it's not a defensive motion. It's how can we make it better? So, but yeah, we've included designers in the past. Still work with them every once in a while. But yeah. Yeah. Um, are
Is it
there, I'm
possible to
seeing a
build
lot of questions.
a communications
Mhm.
tool when so much about corporate communications is human-based judgment?
That's it's a broad question, right? Because what exactly is a communication tool? I will say that I had someone that I'm not trying to skirt the question, but I did have someone that provided me recently very specific product requirements about building effectively all things for workforce management, for compliance, etc., which had a significant communication component to it, but that was more in on the basis of communication of compliance requirements of obligations both by the employer and the employee or contractors and others, scaling out to meet geographic requirements because they're very, very different. So I would say that yes, communication in terms of helping get the information out for certain things. But there are more nuanced things, right? There's definitely more. There's AI interviewers if you treat that as communication. But I'm keen to know more and happy to answer more specifically. What else?
How many tickets were raised in the cloud discovery product by your clients, either due to bad data or bad implementation or bugs? Can you comment on code quality?
Yeah, absolutely we can. I'll answer. I'll let Soham answer in a bit too. Very, very quickly. We found one major. So we had one customer where we found one major that I'll define that as major. We had one major issue where we had incomplete results, not inaccurate. So big difference. Where, for example, we're scanning somebody's cloud environment and we surface, let's say, X number of issues, right? Let's just say 10,000. I'll keep the number simple. We surfaced 10,000 issues. What they really had is twofold. They had a few more issues, and they also would have had some fewer issues because of how they configured certain things. It's just that the area that applied, one that itself would have raised more issues, and the other is that whatever would have resolved some because there are multiple ways to do something right in the cloud. Wasn't covered. And so the minute we found that out, the collective we, and ironically, we found that out because we were also doing some manual triage just to do our own comparisons. We've implemented an update, got it all right, and smooth sailing from there on. So, from an inaccuracy perspective, no. From a completeness perspective, yes, we had one issue and we resolved it, specifically on GCP. But yep. And yeah, code quality. So we don't vibe our way. So do you want to talk about just in a couple of lines how you use AI to accelerate but not vibe your way through an enterprise product?
Of course, of course. When it's an enterprise product, there's not even a question of vibing it through. So as we talked about it in the webinar itself, it's always hybrid. the human needs to validate, make the decisions itself. AI can help us automate it, but the decision making, the flow of the data, where it should go, which agent should be the next, or after the agent processes the data, how can we sanity check it? These are the implementations that we need to do. And these are completely manual. There is no way that you can rely on AI to validate AI's output. So that's just circular, right? So these are the ways, these are the areas that require manual intervention, and that makes it human, and it still keeps us in control. So that's the thing that ensures there is proper code quality and enterprise level output. So that's the thing.
Yeah, I think I'll just summarize that also to say that, we'll use it to create some code. I mean, we have and a lot of documentation for sure, but we have our safeguards on reviewing everything manually personally, and also having a number of very deterministic tools and others to for security, for compliance, etc. internally as well. So gotta eat your own dog food, right, as they say. But Albert, next question.
All right. This has been really interesting. A peek behind the curtain. Cool. Yeah, no other questions at the moment. So,
I got one. I'm
oh yeah,
looking
oh, I
again
see
in
the
the
Q&A here. All right, let's see.
because
I'm new
yeah,
to AI and didn't know about ChatGPT until last October. I have an idea about a project I want to do, but I have no idea where to start or what tools to use. How would, how would, how should I start? I guess is just what I should say. Okay.
so I would say, the most important thing to answer that question, the most important thing you can do, it's small, but it'll give you some instant validation of directional validation, right? Is one, you have to be descriptive with GPT for it to give you any meaningful output. And the one cute trick with prompts is the way you talk to it. Don't just write reams and reams of paragraphs in it. What I typically do is just use something called like a section called task, a section called requirements, a section called background, and keep the task as small as possible. Your goal is to tell it in the task very specifically, like do something. Like, for example, create a report for audience X in conjunction with all the requirements Y listed below, only after reading the background information, or not reading, comprehending the information in Z in background below. What that does is the like, for example, GPT will know exactly what you need in the output, and then your requirements, write them as bullets. Like, you have to give me the output as a CSV. You have to be precise. You have to be concise, blah, blah, blah. It lets you write some very short, quick requirements for what you want or how you want something. But it's a different way of thinking, right? In terms of you're being very explicit with it, and you're not giving it any more than it needs to know. So, and then in the background, if you want to write even paragraphs, if you feel more comfortable, do that. And that's the I can tell it anything I want, or I can randomly convey information if you want. Ideally, put in bullets. So I know that's a very specific answer, but also reach out. Happy to help. Happy to help share tricks of how to get the most from GPT and others to validate your idea, and beyond. So along those lines, I saw a question that fascinates me, right? How long did you do research for before deploying the solution? I keep hearing customer first, build later, but seems like you guys first built first, then validated, assuming if you're so on and so forth. That it wouldn't take too long to build something basic to test. The answer is um it's a hybrid. So for Cloud Twin, we had a very strong, I would say, take on there's a very strong gap. So our market research, I'll dial that back. When we started Red Hold and we didn't know what we wanted to do, and we just knew we wanted to do something. It took 6 weeks of market research to figure out what we even wanted to do. What's the space we wanted to play in? Not because we couldn't play in at least 100 different spaces, but was it worth our time? Like, even if you got revenue, did it really matter? Was it meaningful revenue? Is there a path to like scaling quite a bit? Specifically, when we chose to build Cloud Twin, which was the first one, we did research for a couple of weeks. Competitors studies took about 7 hours, but we did research overall without coding for a couple weeks. And yes, you're right. We built first without having a paying customer. We had a few prospects we validated through several conversations. That's that. With cloud discovery, it was the exact opposite. We had learnings from before, we've used other products, etc. When we saw a need from a specific customer, like a paying customer, one that pays well, one that's large, one that's, a hallmark customer, we built, and then we started, like, as we started growing, we started building it out further, if that helps. So that hopefully I've answered your question on timelines and when we did what you said and didn't do what you said. So, and yes, if your skills are good enough, it'll take not too long. However, if your skills aren't, we can help you with that, right? It's fairly quick to validate something. So,
Let's see. Did you build something with AI to collect that fast feedback and iterate it during your cloud discovery product?
did we build something with fast feedback? Yes, yes. And I'll answer this both externally and internally, right? Um, in the sense of we built something to show prospects, existing customers and prospects. With existing customers, it was more about features, about, if this is okay, we'll build it. So we built obviously UI first, dummy features, etc. If they like it, and that's more about an incremental feature. We didn't build the whole product or mock the whole product and show it. But after building something lean, so that's external. Internally, I'll just tell you that even our websites for our products, which Soham builds, I mock up and give it to him just so we have clear understanding. So I'll actually mock a full website, just strictly internally and focus on copy, on content, on wording and everything, and general color scheme and things like that. But then that's throwaway, right? We don't actually push that to production. But that's very quick for me to convey to someone exactly what we need to do, and then he's building, as an example. Or if he has pushback, it's easy to validate. So that's an internal example of where we give each other prototypes also very, very quickly.
Okay. All right. No more questions. I don't think a lot of people are just chatting back and forth in the webinar chat. So we'll go ahead and end this here. But any final thoughts, Sean, before? Oh, any final thoughts, Sean, before
Um,
I
no,
wrap?
I No, thanks everyone for staying late. It's been great to have everyone and good to see participation well beyond the time. As Albert and mentioned and I briefly shared, we are running kind of a cohort for 6 weeks as well. So if you want to actually build something from scratch, if you want to hone your skills on using AI for everything, starting with an idea and taking it the whole way, and that's not a full-time job, right? We're designing it so that you can do that, by all means. Again, the LinkedIn door and the email remains open if you have any questions, if you'd like any of the content we shared, if you'd simply like to connect, right? Always happy. Just yeah, glad to do it.
All right. Thank you all so much. Appreciate all of your time today. We look forward to seeing many of you in this upcoming boot camp. And if you have any questions, please reach out and we'll be following up. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will talk to you soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, Arun. Bye.